Good evening and welcome to this week's edition of StormCast. I'm your host, Joey Pisani. Great to be back here on the airways here on YouTube live with everyone. Got some of our team members here, our leadership team. Jesse's out in Iowa. And then also good to have with us this week as well. We have Ben out in the UK. So good to have you on here. Ben, how are you doing, man? How's things been out there?
Well, I'm doing pretty good, thank you. Apart from bad back, well, that's another story. Things are going pretty good. Working hard, playing hard.
Work hard, play hard. There you go. There you go. That's good. We've got three things we're gonna. Yeah.
Weather's been cold. Though. Weather has been cold, though. I'll say that much.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah, we're gonna talk about that here in just a little bit. We've actually got three things we're gonna talk about here in the next 10 to 15 minutes on tonight's Stormcast. We're going to talk about, obviously, Thanksgiving right around the corner for many people here in the U.S. That's going to actually be next Thursday, so we're just a little over a week away. We're going to take a look at what's your probability of seeing a white Thanksgiving. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Also, with Thanksgiving right around the corner, Black Friday, we're looking like we could see some severe weather this coming Friday, so a week before Black Friday, an early Black Friday severe weather event. So we'll talk about that. Jesse's going to have some details on that. And then as many of you have heard, I am sure you've heard about the earthquake out in the Iran-Iraq border. Ben's going to be giving us some of the latest information that we have on that. But first, as we'll start here, let's talk about what are the probabilities of you guys seeing a white Thanksgiving here across portions of the United States. Really, this year, La Nina is starting to really take effect, which means that we're seeing cooler than average, at least half a degree Celsius cooler than average sea surface temperatures across parts of the Eastern Pacific Ocean. And that in turn is going to be bringing warmer than average and drier conditions across really the southern part of the United States, and wetter conditions and colder than average across parts of the north central and northern parts of the U.S., and is particularly the north central and northwestern U.S. could be really cold. So let me take you here. Weather.com put out an article about this earlier today, and interestingly, I was reading through it and noticed that they've done some climatology reports and the historical probabilities of having a white Thanksgiving. And really, if you live in places from, say, Texas eastward through Georgia, the Carolinas, you only have about less than a 5% chance, 5% probability of seeing a white Thanksgiving. Now, as you move further north into places like the Ohio River Valley and the Missouri River Valley, that moves up to about a 10 to 20% chance across places like West Virginia and Kentucky. And then as you move a little bit further north into the Great Lakes region, you're looking at about a 20 to 40% chance there. And then as you get up into Minnesota and North Dakota, it actually goes up to about a 40 to 60% chance of seeing a white Thanksgiving, and then also 40 to 60% chance historically also across portions of the Rockies. So we are looking at the potential for seeing some snow this Thanksgiving in some of those places we mentioned earlier. We're going to be looking at maybe seeing a Clipper system kind of moving across portions of the northern Great Lakes, especially maybe the Arrowhead of Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan. Some of those places looks like we could be seeing some snow for your Thanksgiving. So if you're living in those places, definitely get out and enjoy it. Meanwhile, we are going to be seeing, some really cold weather across much of the central and eastern part of the country for your Thanksgiving time. We're going to see a warm up here later this week, and then we're going to see another very strong cold front come through and really bringing some of that cold Canadian air southward as we get into next week. So that is the latest on the winter weather. There are some winter storm watches, I know, across parts of Washington for that system that's going to slowly make its way across the United States. Now, turning our gears to severe weather on the other end of the spectrum, we are looking at some severe weather, and Jesse's going to tell us more about what we're looking at for this weekend.
This weekend on Friday, we're looking at a 15% chance of showers and thunderstorms. Area of Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, all of Arkansas. Looks like Alabama, Louisiana, Oklahoma, and also parts of Texas.
Yeah, it's a very wide swath that the Storm Prediction Center has already put in this 15% area. And Jesse, I mean, when you see something like this that the Storm Prediction Center is putting out, this many days in advance, like, what's it kind of telling you?
This is telling me that it's exactly what it's telling me is because being this far out, you never know for sure if the weather is actually going to do what they say.
This is very true.
It's like, okay, yeah, there's a 15% chance, but we're still 5 days out. It could change between now and then.
Yes, absolutely.
There's a lot of people that will go by what the SPC says. A tool, but don't always go by what they say.
Yeah, I mean, it's just saying that, hey, just be aware that there's the potential that we could see some severe weather in these areas. It's really not a guarantee, kind of like you said. It's never guaranteed, but it is showing that there is that potential for severe weather. Really, again, they're across parts of the Ohio and Mississippi River Valley. So we'll definitely have to keep a close eye on it, and definitely stay tuned with us here at Extreme Weather Videos for all the latest severe weather updates on our Facebook and Twitter pages. So
the potential looks like it's there, but with the La Nina situation going on, you don't know exactly where it's gonna lie.
Yeah, I think the reason that they put out this 5-day probability is really, it kind of has to do with the models. Both the GFS and the Euro have been fairly consistent within the last 24 hours or so, showing that upper level trough kind of digging down across parts of the Ohio and Tennessee river valleys with that associated cold front, bringing in that instability late day 4 into that day 5 period, and then finally moving across the eastern U.S. day 6. They haven't issued anything for day 6, obviously, because there's a bit of a timing difference once you get that far out between the GFS and Euro. But really, the pattern is suggesting that there's going to be a linear band. So we're not really looking at supercells, but we are looking at maybe a really damaging wind type of event that could happen across portions of the Ohio and Tennessee Valley. So again, that's, I think, really why they put out this potential, this 15% risk area. Again, as you mentioned, from parts of the Midwest to the Arklatex vicinity. No risk area for day 6 doesn't mean that as we go forward in time, maybe a day or two, could see another risk area put out for Saturday, but we'll just have to play it by ear on that one. So,
they're talking about a modest cape. So does that mean the cape is higher than?
Yeah, it's high. It's a bit higher than what it. Yeah, it's a higher cape. I mean, it's not like a huge amount, but it's enough cape to generate to show that we have the potential for severe weather. And again, particularly we're looking at a quasi-linear convective system, meaning aka a squall line, a large squall line in association with that frontal system, going to be moving through. Low tornado potential, can't rule out an isolated tornado spinning up along that line somewhere, but really probably a damaging wind and maybe some marginal hail for your Friday, and then maybe into Saturday across maybe places from like southern New York into Pennsylvania down into Virginia, the Carolinas, maybe. So we'll have to see on that. So again, definitely stay with us. Looks like we could have some team members that may be in some of these areas on Fridays. So definitely have to see how that plays out.
I have a feeling
For sure.
that system on Friday is going to bring us a big mixture of not just thunderstorms and damaging wind, but areas could see snow in that area as well.
Yeah, exactly. You bring up an excellent point there, Jesse, because that is something that the models have been focusing on. That same system, it's going to have, like we see with our late fall, early winter systems, where you'll have severe weather kind of on the southern side, and then on the back side of that low, where the air is cold, much colder, you'll get that snow and sleet mixture along the warm front typically. And then, snow around the backside, closer to where the occluded front sets up. So, places like, that's why I'm saying, you could have severe weather maybe across portions of Illinois and Ohio, but up in like maybe northern Michigan, northern Wisconsin, over into Minnesota, maybe even down into Iowa once it passes you, maybe getting some light snow showers there on the backside of this. So definitely bring up an excellent point there that we could be seeing, all aspects of weather from the severe to the winter weather with this low pressure mid-latitude cyclone moving through. Our next story that we wanted to, our next story that we wanted to talk about here before we wrap it up here for tonight's Stormcast is this earthquake that we had happen out in the Iran-Iraq border. And for that, we'll go to Ben Smith reporting live from the UK. So Ben, what have you heard on the latest from this Iran-Iraq earthquake as to magnitude, death toll, impacts? Tell us what you've been hearing out there, because you're about 6 hours ahead of where we are here in the U.S. So what's going on?
Well, the latest I can tell you here is the magnitude of the earthquake was 7.3 on the Richter scale, although initial reports was a 7.2, so it's been put up 0.1 to 7.3. It's in the mountainous border of Iran and Iraq, so the rescue effort is going to be very, very tricky. Initial reports of over 400 people dead, with over 7,000 injured.
Wow.
And that's just initial report. I suspect those numbers are going to go up very significantly. A lot of buildings have been completely brought to the ground. I mean, just saw some footage as well. A lot of big boulders have come crashing down from the mountains as well into the towns and villages. So that would have added to the damage done as well. It's the single deadliest quake so far this year as well, I would add.
Yeah.
It was, the epicenter of it was just inside the Iran border, but it was 15 miles from the actual border of the two countries. The western Iran in Sapol El Zehab was the town where most people were killed.
Wow.
Parts of the Kamasha province couldn't have hit a worse place, really, to be honest, this earthquake. Especially with regards to building structure of the buildings there.
So a lot of building damage. So, I mean, and you mentioned the terrain. You mentioned the terrain and the impact that has that had on the earthquake. You're absolutely right, because let me show you this here. If you look at Google satellite imagery here of that area, you can see the terrain here right along just on the inside there of the Iranian border there. We have these very tall mountains here. And that's really where the earthquake kind of took place there. And there's probably a fault zone along that area there in the Iran-Iraq border. And just on the western side of the mountains, you do have that town that you mentioned. That sounds like it sustained some major damage, and where many of the reported deaths have been coming from in that area. So definitely very serious situation out there.
And of course, the only way to get in there for the rescue effort, the most efficient way is going to be by a helicopter, because any roads leading through the mountains up to these villages.
And I think we just lost.
there, Ben.
Yep, we just lost your volume there. So, but yeah, absolutely, you're absolutely right. I mean, getting rescue and supplies into that area is going to be very difficult because, as Ben was saying, a lot of the roads likely have been destroyed by the earthquake itself. And some of these places, especially the more rural places, are going to be buried under rubble. And you have to think about aftershocks, and when that happens, the rubble and stuff like that along the mountainsides will continue coming down the mountain due to the effects of gravity, and things like that. So definitely a very sad situation out there in the Iran-Iraq border. We'll keep you posted and on that as well. So, I mean, a lot of different forms of weather that we've talked about here tonight, from the snow to the severe weather to earthquakes. It's also Winter Weather Awareness Week this week. So be keeping up with our Twitter feed. We'll be posting some really cool information on there. We'll also probably get out an article out on our website by the end of this week on some winter weather safety tips for you guys, as we really do begin getting here into the heart of the winter storm season here in the U.S. And yeah, so Ben, Jesse, I want to thank both of you guys for joining me for this week's Stormcast. Great to have both of you guys on. And we'll be back here next Monday around the same time. So definitely stay tuned to our Twitter for more updates. Also, thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't subscribed to us on YouTube, go ahead and do us that favor. Click that subscribe button. Share this video with a friend. Stay safe out there and continue to experience the extreme with all of us here at Extreme Weather Videos. Leaving you live with a picture there from the IranIraq earthquake. Thanks for tuning in tonight, guys. Have a great rest of your evening.
Good night.